If you like the drama Shogun and you secretly have ice cream for breakfast, you need to know about Tokugawa Iemochi, the sweet-toothed shogun. Of the 15 shoguns who ruled Japan during what we call the Edo period, the 14th shogun, Tokugawa Iemochi, was so kind to everyone to the extent that his entire staff was determined to make his reign the best reign ever. Iemochi was a good boy. Even as a child, he wouldn't miss a day studying and practicing the samurai curriculum. But one day, during calligraphy class, he suddenly threw water at his teacher, laughed, and called it a day. Everyone was puzzled because he was not the type of boy to do that. Now this sensei was 70 and he couldn't control his bladder anymore, and he accidentally peed in his pants during class. Iemochi noticed this, so he threw water at his teacher, pretending to be mischievous so that he wouldn't feel embarrassed. Sensei was not good at holding things in. He broke down in tears out of gratitude. On another day, when Iemochi was watching his jutsu teacher sprawling with another samurai, his teacher landed on Iemochi's hands by mistake. He apologized on all fours, but Iemochi was like, "It's okay, sensei. It didn't hurt so much," with tears in his eyes. This was in Samurai World Japan. He thought that sensei would be punished if he made a scene. This sensei was not good at holding things in either. He left in tears. Now we know that Iemochi had a relentless sweet tooth because there are written records that say so. He liked sharing sweets with everyone. When Iemochi was 15, he caught news that his highest vassal, Naosuke, was assaulted by terrorists on the way to work. So Iemochi tried to send Naosuke his favorite sweets, rock sugar, to make him feel better. But at that point, Naosuke was already dead. His head had been chopped off and taken away by the terrorists. So Iemochi and the staff were entrusted the rock sugar were like, "I hope Naosuke gets better soon. Here's my favorite snack. I feel better when I have it." "Thank you, my lord. I will make sure Naosuke receives this. He is gravely ill and he won't be coming to work for a little while." Iemochi himself died at 21 because of the beriberi disease, which is caused by a deficiency of vitamin B1. It was a common illness in the Edo period when people ate loads of white rice and not much of other food with vitamins. Iemochi, on top of that, was taking a lot of empty calories from his favorite sweets. Everyone was like, "There will never be another ruler who would make me use the teary-eyed emoji on a tiny friend." When Iemochi's bones were excavated in 1958, Japan just confirmed how much he loved sweets. Sweet-toothed Shogun had cavities in all 30 teeth. What would you do if you saw a man torturing the puppy to death? Now, I don't know about you, but the 5th Shogun, Tokugawa Tsunayoshi, he said, "Okay, it's fine." Tsunayoshi was very respectful of other life forms, except towards people who were mean to them. So starting from 1685, he set laws prohibiting the killing and mistreating of pretty much all animals, including birds and insects. So during its rule, at least 69 people were given pretty harsh punishments for disobeying the law, and even a bounty was given to people who reported to the cops. For example, 11 samurai were caught secretly hunting birds because they were craving bird meat. Seppuku, a samurai, was bitten by a dog, so he killed it with his sword. Seppuku, a man choked a puppy to death. Crucified, a samurai did not adopt a puppy that was sitting in front of his house entrance. Banishment, a man abandoned 3 baby horses. Walk of shame, decapitation, public display of severed head. One day, a man working at the castle was seen killing a mosquito that landed on his face. He was reported by another guy, I think because there was a bounty for reporting offenders. During the trial, the blood on the man's face was enough evidence and he was exiled to a remote island. And also, the judge was like, then you, informant. It's not me. It says here. You didn't try to save the mosquito, so exile for you too. Also, all stray dogs were captured and kept at this large facility as big as 99 football fields, and they were fed refined rice in an age when not a few people had trouble finding anything to eat. Although these animal protection laws came with good intentions, they were not thought out enough, and everyone, including samurai, held grudges. In 1709, Tsunayoshi was on his deathbed. His last words were, "Keep the animal protection laws going." So, 10 days after Tsunayoshi's death, the government reverted the law. Everything back to normal, guys. But let's keep the part about banning abandoning kids and abandoning sick people because we need to stop doing that. Historians now think that it was thanks to Tsunayoshi that Japanese people started to think twice before resorting to taking or hurting other lives. Tsunayoshi developed this obsession with protecting the weak right after he lost his 5-year-old son. A traveling German doctor called Engelbert Kempfer met with Tsunayoshi in 1691, a few years after his son's death. From behind the drapes, Tsunayoshi asked, "Is there an elixir for eternal life?" Yes, sire. It's called Totally Legitilix. Tsunayoshi just wanted everyone to have a fair chance at life. Except puppy torturers! There was a samurai who fought not for honor, not for fame, but to meet and exceed expectations of Mon Ishikawa Jozan. Was born towards the end of the age of nationwide samurai battle royal, the Sengoku period. It was the heyday of samurai. Young warriors with ambitions to make it big would charge into the enemy in front of the very front line to acquire the honor of Ichiban Yari or Ichiban Kuri. Ichiban Yari literally means first spear, and it's like an award given to the man who makes first contact with the enemy front line. Ichiban Kuri literally translates to first head, and it's an award for first kill. Now, Ishikawa Jozan became the breadwinner of his family at 16 because his father died. But he was ready. He had practiced combat every day and studied tactics and strategies from very academically challenging Chinese literature not many would even try. But he had never fought in battle because he was ultimately hired as a bodyguard for Tokugawa Ieyasu, the would-be shogun. He was positioned right beside the highest general, so the opponent never reached him. And when Ieyasu was just about to pick off the last standing enemy force to conquer all of Japan, Jozan had become 33. So in 1615, the siege of Osaka, really the last battle of the Sengoku period, was about to take place. Now his mother, I don't know about this lady, she wrote a letter to him before the battle, saying something like,
"Despite being born into a lineage of legendary warriors, you have not made me proud even once. If you fail to make a name for yourself this time, I don't want to talk to you ever again."
And she was very ill, so it was really Jozan's last chance to make mom proud. But during the march, Tokugawa Ieyasu issued an order for all soldiers specifically not to step out of the positions they were assigned. So Jozan was like, "My lord, my apologies for disobeying you. But you don't have a tiger, Mom!" So he sneaked out of his camp and power walked to the very front line because he's going for Ichiban Yari and Ichiban Kuri. And when the battle kicked off, his 33 years of frustration just exploded. He got into one-on-one with a pretty famous samurai and destroyed this poor dude. He got first kill, Ichiban Kuri. Jozan was not given a formal award by Ieyasu and instead was suspended because he disobeyed orders to stay put. But his samurai peers were like, but my lord, did you see him fight? He's the man! They pleaded mercy for Jozan, but before Ieyasu made any decision, Jozan shaved his head and became monk. He knew the age of samurai warfare was over, so he had made up his mind to change careers. He was hired as a scholar under another feudal lord. He took care of his sick mother until she passed away. 21 more years later, was she really sick when she wrote that letter? Anywho, Jozan lived until 90, reading books, writing poetry, making tea in a garden. Without anyone telling him what to do, there was a samurai who traveled 1,200 kilometers to demand a bonus. Early samurai were highly motivated warriors because showing bravery led to bonuses in the form of land. Which also means that during peaceful times, there's almost no opportunity to get promoted or get bonuses. So when Mongolian forces came to attack Japan in 1234, one samurai warrior became particularly excited. "My lord, the Mongols are approaching the bay! 900 warships! They're coming with 900 warships!" Yes! Takezaki Suenaga had just lost an internal strife against his relatives and lost the land he used to have in what is now Kumamoto Prefecture. So in his mind, a chance to make a comeback just emerged out of the blue from the sea. So with just 4 men remaining under his control, he charged into the enemy because being the first to clash with the enemy front line was the most honorable achievement in the world of samurai. But the Mongols were far advanced in warfare then, and they even had crossbows and even grenades. Compared to them, samurai warfare during this time was more like a school play. It was not a mass-to-mass warfare yet. It was more like a whole bunch of simultaneous one-on-ones that started with a lengthy introduction to each other. "Sir, there are 5 soldiers charging towards us. Do they not see that there are like 25,000 of us? They're yelling something in Japanese, sir. I think they're introducing themselves. I do not understand Japanese. So Suenaga's horse got shot. He fell down, hurt his knee, and he just barely retreated. But he was there first, so his boss reported him as first opponent. Team Japan won, largely thanks to an autumn storm that sank multiple villages. So Suenaga was waiting for his bonus, but 3 months passed and nothing came his way. It seems like his boss forgot to mention it when he was reporting the results. Suenaga needed that bonus. That's why he risked his life rolling around in pain on the battlefield. So he left Kumamoto and traveled all the way to Kamakura to protest before the shogunate. What? He's still here? This guy charged into an army 5,000 times bigger than his and traversed 1,200 kilometers on foot to file a complaint. I am not interested in finding out what he would do next. Someone please give him some land like in the deepest countryside of Japan. Suenaga's claim was approved after 3 months of persistent protesting. Later in life, Suenaga had a painter paint his battle with the Mongols because he wanted no one to forget about his efforts. More blood. More blood, please! My late horse, Umako-chan! She deserves credit too! So that is how I remember the first samurai who got beaten the crap out by the Mongolian Empire. There was a Zen monk who lived 73 years solely on alms, wrote poetry, played with children. That's all he did, and still marked his name in history. Ryokan was always smiling, and for him, anger was just not a concept. One day, he was playing hide and seek with the local children, and these children were not the cute types. They were the types who inspired people to not have children. But still, they couldn't anger Ryokan. Hey, it's getting dark. We haven't found Ryokan. He's in that haystack. Let's just leave him there. See what happens. Okay. See you tomorrow. And the next morning, a villager heard something rustling under the haystack. Oh, Ryokan-san. What are you doing here? Shh. I'm playing hide and seek with the children. Can you put it back on? Thank you. In his humble home, Ryokan only had a rusty bowl, a pot, and a worn-out futon. But one day, a thief snuck into his house. He looked for items to steal, but all he found was a rusty bowl, a pot, and a futon with Ryokan in it. Ryokan pretended not to notice and rolled over so that it would be easier to steal the futon. Thief-san must be meaner than I am if he has to steal my dirty futon. But he didn't take the moon I can see from my room. And my utmost favorite episode of this is his conversation with the rich retired man. Ryokan-san, I've turned 80. I have a few more things I want to do, and I want to live longer. Could you chant a mantra for my longevity? Oh, sure. But you need to tell me how long you want to live. We need to set clear goals. Well, I'd like to live until 100. 100? That's only another 20 years. You'll die when you turn 100. Is that okay? Oh. Then, can I wish for more? Of course. How long do you really want to live? Maybe 150? All right, 150. You'll die at 151. Wait! 180! Oh, come on. Aim for the moon. Land among the stars. If you say so, then I'll live forever. All right. I'll live forever chant coming up. Chanting mantras is not a bad thing, but he did it anyway. What's right? What's also doesn't matter. What matters is that you made someone happy today. Run late for appointments in Japan and bid farewell to your reputation. Like the shogun's son did 400 years ago, Tokugawa Hidetada was the would-be heir of the first shogun, Tokugawa Ieyasu. He was 21 when Dad was about to finish off his conquest of all of Japan in a final battle called Battle of Sekigahara. Hidetada was a good boy, He wasn't the sporty type, but he was smart, he was compassionate, and he did everything he could to live up to Dad's expectations. So Dad entrusted him 38,000 men, half his military and his mightiest warriors, and told Hidetara to come to the main battlefield via a different route, where a small castle was kind of blocking the way. It was Hidetara's first time commanding troops, so he must have been nervous. It's just a small castle with 2,000 men protecting it, so it shouldn't take long. But this little castle, Ueda Castle, was the HQ of the Sanada family, led by the notoriously cunning Sanada Masayuki 51. Father, Hidetara's forces are 15 times greater than ours. How do we win? The first step to victory is to define victory. Now, Hidetara had to capture Ueda Castle as soon as possible so that he could resume his march toward the main battlefield. So he urged Masayuki to surrender. That would cost the least number of lives and time. Masayuki shaved his head and replied, "Please allow me 2 days to persuade my staff to surrender." "Oh, that's good. Nobody will die. Let's wait. It's just 2 days." But then 2 days later, the letter Masayuki sent was like, "After careful consideration, we decided not to surrender. We kicked your dad's ass when he tried to take us down the last time. Oh, the son's got more balls. Show us what we got you here. Show us what you got." Gentlemen, we're gonna destroy them. So the battle started, but Masayoki's like a lot more experienced. He had like 3 or 4 surprise attacks already. He even flooded the river behind Hidetara's camp so that he couldn't retreat. So basically, Hidetara wasted 7 days and several hundred men on an enemy a 15th of his size. And that's when a letter from Dad arrived. "Hidetara, we want your troops to arrive at Sekigahara by the 9th. See you there. Love, Dad." What day is it today? Oh, it's the 9th one. So Hidetara and his troops ran, but they finally got to Sekigahara on the 19th. The Battle of Sekigahara took place and ended on the 15th. Sanada Masayuki's goal all along was to keep Hidetara's 38,000 men away from the main battlefield, because that's the equivalent of picking off 38,000 enemy men from battle. Hidetara's dad still won, but he was very close. He was not happy with Hidetara. He didn't talk to him for several days. There's actually more to this story, but that will be in my Amazon bestseller book. This was my plan all along. See you there. In the 15th century, a shogun was appointed by lottery, and Japan learned never to do that again. In 1428, the 4th shogun, Ashikaga Yoshimochi, died without naming an heir, and this was a big problem. In samurai families, there was always a high chance of internal conflict whenever the head of a family died. And if this was a shogun's family, it could lead to nationwide warfare. So explaining in today's terms, nobody was paid enough to face that kind of responsibility. So the next shogun was decided by random drawing. We'll let the gods decide this one. And the shogunate goes to Ashikaga Yoshinori. So Ashikaga Yoshinori, the brother of the former shogun, won the drawing, but people called him names like lottery shogun. And Yoshinori took this very personally, and it didn't help that he was a man of action. "My lord, your relatives in eastern Japan are calling you names." Kill them. "We caught a few peasants who called you lottery shogun." Kill them. "The chef is apologizing that your dinner today was not his best work." Kill him. Yoshinori's insecurity about being a lottery shogun led to establishing rule by fear. So through history, we know that when you add insecurity to a psychopath, you get a tyrant. One day, Yoshinori invited 2 of his highest warlord achievers to his place, only to have them assassinated. And his reason was, they become quite influential for some rival, and that means they might become future threats to my regime. Action is the cure for war. And it didn't stop there. My lord, our 3rd biggest achiever, the younger one of the Yakamatsu brothers, we prefer keeping him because his performance is high. I'm not gonna take this. What are you talking about? But take it thing goes. Action is the cure for... So Yoshinori confiscated this poor guy's territory. And hearing this news, the older one of the Akamatsu brothers, Akamatsu Mitsusuke, who was like the 4th biggest achiever of the shogunate, was like, at this rate, I'm next. So one fine day, Mitsusuke invited Yoshinori and his staff to his place for a little party. And while everyone was watching a dance performance, he set off an assassin to stab Yoshinori from behind and kill him. But then, something unexpected happened. Guys, I couldn't help it. Please take me and my assassin away. We're ready to face anything. What's taking so long? We are taking a moment to absorb this situation. And the prominent emotion we find ourselves basking in right now is a huge sense of relief. If you stay here long enough, we might accidentally enter. Maybe we should get caught. So we just didn't get caught for like a month. So number one, killing is not. And number two, tyranny also isn't. We have bloody battle furry on this end of the spectrum, and varsity tennis match on the other end. Early samurai battles leaned more towards tennis. Early samurai warfare was more like sports games. The goal of battle was not to kill all your opponents. The goal of battle was to show your valor and skills, and you sometimes died as a result. On the battlefield, fighting was basically supposed to be done one-on-one. So if there were like 100 men fighting each other, there were 50 one-on-ones simultaneously. And they followed set procedures with phases. It was like, it's already started. Does anyone want to fight me? Hey, Shigechi, that guy looks like he doesn't have a partner. Okay. Yeah, oh, I know that name. My great uncle married into the Obushi family like 70 years ago. Oh, what a small Japan. This is my first battle ever, so it'll be cool if I can chop your head off and bring it back home so that I can make my mom proud. Whoa! Don't be so hasty. Sword fighting comes after horseback arrow shooting. Make sure you run up to me as close as possible so they can shoot my face. Of course I'll do my best to dodge and destroy your face. I keep hitting your helmet. Now I'm out of arrows. It's okay. I'm out of arrows too. So now we get off our horses and draw our swords. So this is when. I was wondering when we get to use our swords. And everyone else, when we didn't have a partner or were kind of finished for the day, watched and cheered. There's a famous episode of a battle between the Genji samurai and the Heike samurai. They were fighting each other on the shore of a place called Yashima. But maybe their introductions were too long or something. And the sun started setting and they were like, hey, some of us are in our 50s and we can't really see each other. Do you want to take a break? So they had a ceasefire. But then the Heike side sent a woman on a boat with a handheld fan held up on a pole. And the woman was like, I bet no one on your team can hit this target in the darkness of twilight. That's like a huge insult to samurai. So one young bowman called Nasuno Yoichi was appointed to take the challenge. So from around 70 meters away on horseback, he hit the fan that was on a rocking boat. Everyone on his Genji team and the opposing Heike team roared in excitement. Yoichi, you the man! You the man! This sounds oddly similar to a game, of course! A samurai in the 19th century was such a motivated learner that he tried to sneak into a U.S. warship to learn about modern civilization, got caught, jailed, used prison time to read 600 books, and turned all his inmates into lifelong learners. Yoshida Shoei was a low-ranking samurai who specialized in military strategy. In 1853, Commodore Perry from the U.S. came into the tip of Tokyo Bay on a big black steam frigate with smoke coming out of its funnel. The samurai government had never seen anything like that, and they were terrified. Shoei heard this news, and he was like, I have to see that top! So he traveled all the way from here to there to a port called Udaya. Now, the biggest warship Japan had until then weighed 100 tons. Commodore Perry's ship weighed 2,500 tons. So Shoei saw this, and he was like, Nothing I learned in military class will do anything to this behemoth. That's why I need to learn of this civilization. I'm getting on this thing. So he stole a fisherman's boat and rowed over to one of the American ships, and he was like, Nice to meet you. My name is Yoshida Shoei. Please call me Yoshi. I cannot speak English, but I want to learn! Shoei was sent back to his hometown to be jailed there. But Shoei was the type who saw the bright side in anything, so he was like, oh, so this is jail. Now I have time to read! So he read like 600 books within a year in his cell, and he knew that the best way to retain knowledge was to try to teach it. So he started lecturing to himself, and his inmates were like, oh, lesson and found everything he taught very interesting. So in a few months, they were like, Shoin-sensei, thank you for the 3-hour lecture. When is the next one? And again, Shoin was the type who saw good in anything and anyone, so he was like, oh, your writing is beautiful. Can you teach me how to write like you? Me? A serial tofu thief? Okay. So within a year, the prison cell became an active learning center where everyone helped each other learn. So soon, the institution overseeing the prison was like, okay, the bars are failing to confine anyone's mind here. Please just start a school. So Shoin started a school and taught about 19 students, and these students eventually helped to overthrow the samurai government. One of the youth became Japan's first prime minister, another became the second prime minister, and one started up 2 universities, and one of them is in Shibuya. Shoin, unfortunately, was executed by the samurai government because in their eyes he was a dangerous activist. But he was immortalized because his students deified him at Shoin Jinja Shrine, being one heck of a teacher. If you think Japanese people fangirling over girl bands, boy bands, and maid cafes is weird because it is say hello to the Japanese history of simping. This is not even the earliest record of fangirling. But in the 18th century, there was a cafe where male customers kept paying double or triple what they were charged. Hussein was the daughter of the owner of a small cafe called keiseira. It was located in the premises of a shrine near Ueno in Edo City, which is the old name of Tokyo. It said that she started working there when she was around 14, and it was just word of mouth from there. Oh, that was a tough day. What are you doing this weekend? I'm going to Kasambari Shrine. Dude, 4 of the co-workers said they were going to Kasambari Shrine this weekend. That's because we're going together. That's like on the other side of the city. Literally, there's another shrine right there. There's no Sencha on that shrine. Who is this Sencha? A cafe waitress? Guys, tea is tea. Served by a dude, served by a grandma, served by a Sencha. It's the same tea. You will come together and take that back, okay? Chill. So much as an angel or something. Angels exist! In Japan, you'll often see a long shopping street leading up to a big temple or shrine. It's because these religious landmarks attracted visitors from all over, and businesses traditionally set up shop near these temples and shrines and enjoy the benefits of the large influx of people. But in the case of Kasambari Shrine, it was the reverse. Osen-chan was attracting visitors to the shrine, and these men try to get her attention by tipping her handsomely. Same as how idol fans buy hundreds of the same CD to win handshake tickets. Now, one of the pioneers of color woodblock printing, Suzuki Harunobu, drew Osen-chan a lot. And these prints were sold for under $8 in today's money, so everyone bought them, and Osen-chan's fame went out of control. Merch was made. Osen towels, Osen plushies, even Osen board games. But in 1770, at the peak of her popularity, Osen suddenly disappeared from the cafe. Rumors spread that she may have been killed by a crazy fan, or she ran off with her secret boyfriend. But the truth was, she got married with a samurai who worked as one of the shogun's private spies called the Onyoban spies. They were the ones keeping an eye on government officers, reporting any corruption or problems to the shogun directly. So he took away everyone's Osen-chan, but nobody had a problem with that. Osen-chan had 9 kids and lived up to 77, and her fans had to move on. To another local cafe idol, Ofuji-chan, a super motivated samurai fleet, couldn't wait for supplies to arrive, so they sold their armor to buy a boat and charge into the enemy. In their undies! Samurai ruled Japan for around 700 years, but the most fearless alpha-type samurai were only in the first 500 years. The latter 200 years were mostly soft beta-type samurai, which I like. But today, we're looking at the most alphaless time in samurai history. In 1185, the samurai world was split in half between Team Minamoto and Team Taira, and Team Minamoto was kicking some Taira ass. They chased them out of Kyoto, the capital then, and made them flee across the ocean. That's when Team Minamoto ran into a crocodile. Those timid Taira chihuahuas! Get our ship! Sir, we don't have a ship. Why don't we have a ship? Because you've never owned, built, or procured one, sir. And why am I so hungry? Because you never included securing food in the project scope, sir. So war is not just about charging forward bravely. Many members of Team Minamoto came from Eastern Japan, and Eastern samurai were predominantly meatheads, so they didn't plan this thoroughly. Some of them began considering going home because they didn't want to. But one commander, Shimokobe Yukihira, was not ready to give up. The act of being the first to arrive at the battlefield was really hyped in the meathead samurai. So Yukihira sold his whole fleet's armor to buy food in a boat. He was gonna charge into the enemy in casual attire. Yukihira, where's your armor? That's suicide. Wrong! This is the perfect excuse to flex my bulging biceps. I told that machine. Dude, arrows are gonna rain on you. What are you gonna do without armor? What we cannot block, we dodge. So Yukihira and his fleet rowed their boat across the sea and resumed the chase. Now with 0 defense points. And as a result, Yukihira defeated an enemy commander and came back successfully. Yukihira, I am both amused and uninspired by what you just said. Why are selling your clothes now? I need money to buy souvenir for my books. There are bandits in every mountain on the Niagara way back counter. They're gonna kill you. Wrong! This is the perfect excuse to flex our pecs. His bulging pecs probably repelled the bandits and made it back safely. Gentlemen, why wear armor when your body is armor? In 10th century Japan, there was a man who changed careers from public officer to pirate king. Fujiwara no Sumitomo was born into a family of high-ranking nobles, but his father died when he was still young. And during this time, that meant he was gonna have almost 0 chance in thriving in the noble route. So he was like a noble dropout. But his uncle was appointed as the provincial governor of what was then called Iyo province, kindly invited him to come along and help him out. Sumitomo-kun, I know you're a good boy. You can understand people's feelings, which is a talent I don't have. And my subjects hate me for it. I can see you become a star public officer, unlike me. Thank you, uncle. I hope so. Now this inland sea in western Japan is called the Seto Inland Sea, and there are always pirates. So Sumitomo's first job was the Coast Guard of Iyo province. So he went around arresting pirates, but in doing so, he learned that pirates were just as human as he was. Okay, I'm sorry, I robbed a cargo ship and took their Neko-san. Our Tama-chan died a month ago. She was the best in Izumi-san. Just don't do pirate stuff. Just stay on land and grow crops. Do you think we became pirates because we wanted to? We used to be farmers. The government's supposed to take 8% of our yield, but the governors they sent, most of them were corrupt, and they took 30%, 40%, whatever they pleased. Seriously? So you guys just taking back what you were taking? Well, except the Neko-san. That I understand. I am stealing. The Neko-san. So when his uncle's term as provincial governor ended, Sumitomo was like, well, Sumitomo-kun, that was the job of a governor. Coercing peasants to pay out more tax than they should by mentioning big names like the emperor and whatnot. That's a skill. Uncle, I'm not leaving. What? They all recommended me for the position. You say, I'm going to be the king of the pirates. What did you say? I'm going to be the king of the pirates! So Sumitomo became the head of all the pirate commands in Seto Inland Sea and went around assaulting every government office in every province. During this time, the imperial court was busy firefighting another revolt in eastern Japan, so they didn't have the resources to do a manhunt for Sumitomo. They tried giving Sumitomo a noble rank to please him and calm him down. But the rank they gave him was the 14th degree out of 15 degrees. So Sumitomo was like, just 14,000 berries? I'm not a man who settles for 14,000 berries. I am the man who is going to become the pirate king. So he went around conquering all the provinces facing the Seto Inland Sea until he was arrested in 940. He died in jail. Villains who used to be kind-hearted. I feel they are very brave. If you haven't found your calling in life yet, watch this. After carving countless walls into ultra-macho deities for decades, the final artistic stage a 13th century sculptor reached was the life of sculpting ultra-cute dogs. Tankei was the firstborn son of Unkei, one of the legendary Buddhist statue sculptor duo Unkei and Kaikei, who carved this pair of deities at Todaiji Temple in Nara. In the early 13th century, samurai had just taken control of Japan from the hands of Koro. So Japan's artistic trend was starting to shift from beautiful aesthetics and poetry to masculinity and physical strength. So when Unkei and Kaikei carved these sculptures, the meathead samurai world was like, this is what we're talking about! So Unkei got a lot of gigs from the samurai government, and Tankei, as his son, sculpted a lot of six-packs. But his father's name was Tuo. He was always seen as a mere assistant muscle sculptor. But that was until his father died and he met a Buddhist priest called Myoe. They were the same age. So, Tankei-san, have you found your voice as a sculptor?
I don't know.
Maybe I should focus on something other than biceps, like triceps. I see. I stepped over a puppy. Why did you pray to a puppy? You never know. Dogs may be the reincarnation of my dead parents. I feel so much love for them. All my parents gave me carving assignments of dogs and pigs. Look how kawaii this puppy is. This boy is the most powerful being in this world. What? But it doesn't have a bicep. No bicep, no value. Ugh, Tankei-san. Physical strength may force people to pay taxes, but they will still hide their wealth in the mountains. Meanwhile, people bring money to Kawaii. We will exhaust our wealth on posses, Kawaii. It's the farthest idea of muscles. My father, it will mean the world to me if you carved me a puppy. So Tankei started shaping an unprecedented sculpture style. It's too edgy. It's not kawaii. You can do it. Round, round. I'm shaping something round with something sharp. No part of my muscle journey was a waste. Power exists to shape love. Noah-san, this is the answer to my life. No, this is the answer to humanity. So most likely. So Kiyama-san became a ferocious warrior, but as a peasant-born, also defied many samurai rules. When samurai began fighting each other like over 1,000 years ago, one-on-ones were happening to They fought for honest victory and honorable deaths, fair and square. And they hardly had any strategy or tactics. They just charged into getting even harder. But with time, mass-on-mass combat became more common. Peasants with spears joined the battle. Peasants with guns joined the battle because these weapons were much easier to learn to use effectively than the sword or bow and arrow. One-on-one still took place on the battlefield, especially when the side that was outnumbered wanted a chance to win. But why would a samurai commander accept a one-on-one invite when he is outnumbering the opponent? It's a risk he doesn't need to take. But for most samurai, face was everything, so it was easy. All it took was Kiyama-san is a peasant. He doesn't give a shit on every victim. So when he was attacked to suppress the rebellion in 1889, he also ran into an enemy commander called Kiyama Danjo, who invited him on the one-on-one. But Danjo was trying to fight with a bow and arrow because he was good at it, and Kiyama-san was holding a spear, so he was like, what's wrong with the cucumber? Look at my helmet. If you want to call this a one-on-one, why don't you fight with a sword? Fair and square. Yes, you're right. Prepare to die, Kato Kiyama-san. So Kiyama-san got down with the one-on-one instantly and seized the enemy castle. There are a few story variants of how Kiyama-san fights the one-on-one, but in every one, he doesn't fight for honor, he fights for results. A superpower of the coming generations is their ability to streamline day-in transitions. Kendo is a Japanese martial art of swordsmanship, discipline, and respect. But his forefather was the farthest person from discipline and respect. Toei Tosa is said to have been the son of a man who was exiled to Oshima Island. It's an island you can totally see from the mainland, but it's 30 kilometers away from the nearest beach. One day, 14-year-old Itosai just clinged on a piece of wood and swam across the sea. Because he was bored, he lived under the eaves of Mishima Taisha Shrine for a while until a swordsman found him hiding. As the guardian of this sacred shrine, I cannot allow an intruder to leave unscathed. Yet, as a master swordsman, I cannot strike down an unarmed rogue. Here, take this, young man. Seems like you've never held a sword. Let me teach you something. The vitality of youth never outshines the wisdom of experience. There seems to be nothing more I can teach you. So after defeating the guardian in a single blow, Itosai was hired by the shrine as a guardian. Records say that one time, the shrine was assaulted by 10 bandits. Itosai slashed down 7 of them. 2 ran away, and one was hiding behind a big vase. So he slashed him down in a single blow, along with the vase. That's why his sword is called Kanewarito, the vase shadow. Itosai soon got bored with life at the shrine, so he moved to Edo, the old name of Tokyo. He joined the dojo under the swordmaster Kanemaki this time. But in about 5 years, Master, sorry to leave this to you, but I don't think there's anything more I can learn from you. What did you just say? Looks like I need to teach you to know your pet. It seems like there's nothing more I can teach you. Itosai just went around looking for stronger opponents, and he defeated a total of 119 swordsmen and didn't lose even once. He naturally had lots of aspiring swordsmen following him, but he didn't like managing or developing people. Master, your teachings are pure gold. Let's spread them across Japan for future generations. Master, talented people win, untalented people lose. That's how it works. Master, you should never say that. Look at all the other apprentices. They should look for their own niche. This is not theirs, that's all I'm saying. Don't listen to them! Master, they have feelings! Here's my sword. We can start a dojo, but please don't involve me. See it? So Itosai disappeared, and his best apprentice, Ono Tadaki, went on to establish the Ono School of Itoryu Swordsmanship. He was later hired as swordsmanship instructor of the shogun's family. Itoryu became a big part of the basis of the martial art now called Kendo. There was a man in the 18th century in samurai ruled Japan who made a hang glider by mimicking a pigeon, successfully glided, and got arrested for scaring a pigeon. Ukita Kokichi was a 7-year-old when his father died and was taken under the care of relatives who ran an umbrella and furniture shop. During this time, most items and furniture were made of wood and paper. Traditional Japanese umbrellas are made of bamboo and wax paper. Screen doors are made of wooden frames with paper glued on them. So Kokichi grew up acquiring these craftsman skills, and in his free time, he was often found in a nearby temple staring at pigeons. Boy, do they look dumb as hell. The way they shoot glances at you, expecting that we have treats for them all the time. But in their timid eyes, I also see the confidence of a ruler, the ruler of the skies. Should danger draw near, they could fly away anywhere, over those mountains that even I have never been beyond. Their wings, how are they made? So Kokichi snatched a pigeon and studied the dimensions of its wings, body, and wings. And he put together Japan's first hang glider out of wood and paper. He even made it so that he could flap the wings by pushing and pulling the bar. So in 1786, Kokichi climbed the bridge railing over a river in what is now Okayama Prefecture and jumped with his hang glider. He quickly realized that he didn't have the strength to flap those gigantic wings, but he did climb for about 15 years. But there was a couple by the river, like making out or something, and they saw a giant set of wings gliding past them in the semi-dark. So they thought it was a tengu, a winged goblin / deity in Japanese folklore, and reported to the police. The next morning, samurai police came and Kokichi was arrested because he tried something new without permission. But sir, I didn't hurt anyone. I'm afraid we need to punish you, Kokichi. Have a taste of samurai conservatism. So he got suspended from Okayama and had to move to Shizuoka. He opened a grocery store there. He did fine. But when he was 51, Kokichi was like, oh, I've grown old. But I have just enough energy to challenge those pigeons once again. Gods of the wind and rivers of Shizuoka, carry me into the sky where the pigeons fly. He was arrested and got suspended from Shizuoka, but he opened a restaurant and he did fine. So remember, you can fly if you decide you can. Do you sometimes feel guilty for stretching the rules your parents or company said and covering it up so that you don't get caught? Well, don't be so much, because samurai did that too! Samurai were the ruling class of pre-modern Japan, and they were the keepers of order. So naturally, samurai were expected to behave like an ideal, disciplined human being, following Bushido and everything. Well, that was an ideal, not always reality. Actually, the authors of Karakuri, a book on Bushido, felt that they needed to put it down on paper because many samurai were not being exemplary samurai. During the Edo period, there was no war for over 200 years, so many samurai spend too much money, and this was a headache for their clan masters. So they were confined in their doors during much of the month, and on the days they could go out, their clan masters set a samurai curfew. Curfews were not going to stop those samurais. They went above and beyond to maximize their racist time. The curfew was at 6 p.m. in most summer lands, the time when the clan's door gates shut. So approaching 6 p.m. every night, samurai bros came rushing in. Bro, we're not gonna make it. Move your legs, not your mouth. Carry your swords on your shoulder, but hanging swords from our waist is our class privilege and identity. Wake up to the truth. At this moment, we are not samurai. We are bros trying to get away with tickets during the red light district. That baptism was beautiful. Get up and sprint if you want to see her from a distance again. Meanwhile, at their clan's door, their samurai colleagues, aka their other bros, were withholding the gatekeeper, whose job was to close the gate when the time was up. Oh, 5:58 already. Let them head to the gate. Oh, what do you guys want? We want to share a moment with you to discuss the content of this Bushido book. We have no idea what this guy's talking about. Oh, I have never seen you guys read this. We got stuck on page 2. Okay, it's good you're feeling a sudden surge of motivation to tackle this piece, but where's Keiseira and Chita? They should be coming back shortly. But more importantly, we would like to hear your opinion on what it says here on integrity. I can speak a TED talk long on integrity. Well, I'm 6'10" already. I better go close that gate. Here's our gratitude. TED talk from our senior samurai. TED talk coming up. So samurai colleagues bribed the gatekeeper, held him up if they had to, all for their bros to make the most of the freedom they were allowed to have. Rules ought to be followed, but life ought to be maximized. We dance a delicate dance between contradicting ideas. There was a best-selling novel in pre-modern Japan that was about an unattractive, spoiled rich boy who relentlessly wants to be seen as a stud and consistently fails. Edomare, Uwaki no Kabayaki was a comical novel written by best-selling author Santo Kyonen during the Edo period. The protagonist, Angel, has a nose like Shrek, so everyone, including himself, doesn't consider him to be the hottest guy on the planet. He's the son of a super rich merchant, so he has nothing to do all day. So one day, he reads a romance novel and gets hooked. Oh, how I wish to be every woman's heart throb, like this protagonist. I know that's not possible. Then at least how I wish to be rumored about as a player. So he asks his closest bros for advice, and together they come up with ideas to do everything but pursue women. Guys, how can I make people think that I'm a player? I think first we need to divert some attention away from your face. How about if you tattooed a bunch of women's names on your body? He's gonna tattoo imaginary women's names. That's like the saddest thing I've ever heard. Let's get 20 or 30 of those. Guys, the point of this game is not to hurt my feelings. But how do we make it believable? I mean, look at this guy's face. Let's have some tattoos half erased. So Angelo goes through the pain of getting women's names tattooed all over his body, and some of them he can only barely make out what they say to make it look like he has some kind of history. And as a result, nobody can. But the bros are not ready to give up yet. You know how sometimes fangirls just show up at popular kabuki actresses' houses and make a fuss? I can pay someone to do that for me. So Angelo asks a geisha woman called Oen-san if she could act as if she was madly in love with him. Oen-san, would you storm into my house and make a scene? Like, threaten my family that you will take drastic measures if you can't marry me. But that's embarrassing. Here's 50 euro, which in today's money is like $35,000. Oh, this boy is dumb as hell. Consider it done. Angelo-san! From the day I saw you from behind the garden shrubs at the temple festival, I have fallen hopelessly in love with you. Oen-san! Can you say that a bit louder so the neighbors can hear you? I'll pay you 10 more real. Hopelessly in love with you! Didn't work. No one gossiped about it at all. So the bros thought they needed to invest more in publicity, so they hired a journalist to write a story about it. Breaking news! The geisha crashed into Dumpling Nose Angio's house and demanded marriage. Details are in this paper. Ladies, take it, it's free. You'll have to pay me to accept garbage. So no one read it. The story goes on, and Angel keeps failing to make a name as a player, but succeeds a bit in making your names an idiot. Don't we love endearing dummies? Do you know what this textile pattern is called in Japanese? It's called sekkamonyo, and it was named and created by a samurai feudal lord who was obsessed with snow. Doi Toshitsura was the lord of the Koga clan governing what is now Koga City in Ibaraki Prefecture. He had a retainer who was a Dutch literature researcher. Now during this time, the only country Japan traded with was the Netherlands, and some Japanese scholars learned how to read Dutch so that they could study the latest technology and Western culture. And right around Toshitsura's time, microscopes came into Japan, and it seems like he got a hold of one through his retainer. And since then, whenever it snowed, Toshitsura stormed outside with tweezers, a black cloth, and a black lacquer box. Oh, it's so heavy! Box! Go! Oh, my lord, it's time for our next meeting! Give me 3 hours! See, ladies? This is what happens when you give boys or men gadgets. Toshitsura was actually one of the first people to observe and record snow crystals in Japan. So naturally, there was a problem. There was no Japanese word for snow crystal. This! It's beautiful. And they're never the same shape. What am I gonna call them? I'll call them Sikka Snowflowers. So he drew 183 Sikka shapes in a book and published it in handful copies. Now people of Edo, which is the old name of Tokyo, were all extremely fashion conscious. So kimono textile makers created new patterns every year to entice them. And one day, these textile makers came across Toshitsura's book. This is incredible. We are so gonna make new textile patterns out of these. All 183. Let's go. So sekkamonyo, or snow crystal patterns, went viral in Edo in no time. In a time when Edo people were secretly mocking samurai for their stiffness and lack of real life skills, their respect for Toshitsura was over the top. He came to be known as Yukino Toro-sama, the Snow Lord. So just be careful when you give gadgets to a man, because he might make history! You might have seen a drunken kung fu master in films or games. Japan didn't have a drunken karate master or anything, but there was a drunken master calligrapher, and this guy's hilarious. You know what that is? Because his whole life was a joke. I mean, he wasn't trying to be funny, but I'm sorry I cannot stop laughing. Keiseira was born into a family of priests running the Kyohachiman Shrine in Ehime Prefecture. When he was 27, his father died and he became a priest. Now, as you can see in this photo of Kyohachiman Shrine, there's kanji written everywhere, right? These were often written by the priests of that shrine. So Beizan studied calligraphy through books. He never became an apprentice under any master calligrapher because he was a priest in the countryside and he couldn't or didn't want to go anywhere. So his calligraphy style was not influenced by mainstream trends too much, but what made his style one and only was his relentless liking of sake. As soon as his priest hours were over, he chucked 3 shoals of sake. What is sho? Now this is called masu, and it's a measuring cup for rice and sake. And they come in different sizes. The biggest one in this picture is 1 sho. I'm holding this one. He was having this times 3! 1 sho is 1,800 milliliters, and a typical pet bottle beverage you'll buy at 7-Eleven is 500 milliliters. So 3 sho is roughly 11 of these every night. So just when he was on the verge of passing out and there was no more ego of trying to write in good penmanship, just his drunk self picked up his ink brush and began his magic. Paper. This is one of his pieces. It says Mui, and it means letting events unfold naturally. And you might think, hey, you didn't write it correctly. Doesn't matter to a stone man. He did the 4 dots for this kanji. Why didn't he do it for the first one? Doesn't matter to a stone man. And Beizan, while he was sober during the day, he kept the diary for 16 years. Probably because otherwise, he would have died without a single memory. Drinking that much? He must have died early. Lived up to 88. Well, sometimes they were all today, we look at questionable kanji that means both male and extra.
You see Hope followed your channel.
How did this happen? Bin is used in yubin-kyoku, which means post office, and it's also used in takyubin, which means courier service, because bin means male. It can also be read ben. It's used in benjo, which means toilet, and benpi, which means constipation, because ben means excrement. So why? Well, Japan has no freaking idea. Because the kanji was used like this in China even before it came to Japan. That's like over 1,500 years ago. The kanji also means convenience, so one theory is that it was some kind of euphemism for taking number 1 or 2. But I'm not gonna let you go empty-handed. This story will make you feel completely fine about confusing the meaning of Japanese words with bin or ben. It was 1872. After Japan saw the downfall of the Tokugawa shogunate that reigned over 250 years, the new government set up post boxes all over the country as part of Japan's modernization program. Post boxes in Japan look like this now, but the earliest ones looked like this. It says clearly, yubinbako, post box. Like yubin, mail, was a word that was created in Japan only recently, so not many people were familiar with it. And in the dark, you can't really read it well. So apparently, some drunk guys at night thought they read Tare benbako, drip excrement box. Public toilet. Oh, convenient. Don't ask me how they reached that height, or if they didn't feel it was weird to be challenged on a game of precision with a narrow slit. But the post box was used in a way that it was not intended. So if you're having trouble with this kanji, don't worry, because even Japanese people had trouble understanding its use cases.
Do you put a sun on everything and everyone in Japanese?
Hi, I'm the collective subconscious of the Japanese people. Not always, but mammals tend to get a sun. Capybaras, when they came to Japan, they immediately got a sun. Birds, insects, microorganisms, not so often. Whether we put a sun kind of represents how the Japanese people had traditionally viewed them. For example, wolves don't usually get a sun, probably because they were seen as dangerous animals. But then bears are kuma-san, and we don't know why. Except they're cute from a distance. By the way, you guys call Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Where did the sun go? In Japan, we call him Kuma no Pooh-san. Don't forget the sun. Companies, yes, but only in a specific situation. When you speak to someone from outside your organization in a work context, you represent your organization. So when you say something like, "Yeah, Nintendo が作るソフトはどれも面白いですね." By not putting a sun at the end, it sounds as if you're viewing Nintendo as equals or even lower by critiquing them. But we all know that Nintendo has conquered the world. So compared to them, your company is like a speck of dust. And besides, you never know. Your company might work with them in the future, and we don't know who's listening. So we make sure we say, "Yeah, Nintendo さんが作るソフトは面白いですね." There, you have fulfilled your duty as a representative of your organization. Shops, yes, if it's a mom and pop shop. In old cities like Kyoto, Osaka, and Tokyo, people lived very close to each other for generations, and their family businesses were tied to that geographical location. So if you have neighbor problems, you couldn't just move. So keeping a good relationship with your neighbors by showing respect to each other was very important. Let's put it this way. Imagine having a bad relationship with your neighbors. Kyoto. So the local grocery store, bookstore, flower shop, these were not just services. They were the town's infrastructure run by your neighbors. So we say, yaoya-san, honyasan, hanayasan. But supermarkets and banks, they're not our neighbors. They're just services without a face. So we don't say, super-san, kinko-san. We say, super, kinko. So try to make a habit of putting a san after anything or anyone you want to show respect to. And be careful, Pooh-san is a non-negotiable. There are 3 writing systems in Japanese: kanji, hiragana, katakana, and the way they came to be is just hilarious. So Japanese was spoken from before its written history, but they didn't have a writing system because they didn't need it. Until one day before the 6th century, the imperial court in Japan was like. So as we all know, we were having a little argument with an opposing political faction, and we did our best to reach consensus, But finally we stabbed the leader from behind. So now we have unanimously come to an agreement to import Buddhism because it seems like a cool religion and it's getting popular on the continent. Sir, how do you import a religion? I don't know, like they must have books or something that we can pass around. Sir, none of us can read. Well, I didn't think about that part. Let's import a writing system first. We'll set up a study group or something. So to learn Chinese culture, the Chinese writing system was brought into Japan and they called it kanbun, and each character is called kanji. Now we may be taking this for granted, but writing is very useful. So Japanese people were like, no, you may not remember, but my notes do. You owe me 2 radishes. Recording information is groundbreaking. Thank you, China. I wish we could write things in Japanese too. I mean, that's the language we use every day. Well, maybe we can use the Chinese characters that sound similar to our Japanese phonetics. But are there like a lot of Chinese characters that are read the same way? There can't be that many. And the result was a disaster. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A few weeks ago, we released our first ever Japanese writing system 1.0, the Manyogana. And today, I'm here to declare that we need to upgrade it to 2.0 really fast. You know why? Yes, because we don't want 57 possible ways to write a single phonetic sound. This is like just the letter S in English. We're not even finished with a word and my wrist has already fallen to tenosinovitis. Look at the number of strokes. So hiragana was invented immediately. It was a codified version of Manyogana, which took too long to write and was not standardized. The infinite possible ways to write Japanese phonetics was reduced to just 46 letters that are easy on our wrists. What's not to like about language? We'll talk about katakana next time. There are 3 writing systems in the Japanese language: kanji, hiragana, and katakana. I talked about how kanji and hiragana emerged in last video, so what the hell is this? Katakana was a cheat sheet language. So Buddhism was imported from the continent into ancient Japan, and all the scriptures were written in Chinese kanji, so ancient Japanese people studied kanji. Now if you've studied Chinese or Japanese, you would know, but it's all fun until it reaches the reading and writing kanji zone. The learning curve is as steep as the cheetah's hairline. It takes time to learn hundreds of kanji. Buddhist scripture gave no mercy. This is a typical kanji textbook for day 1. You know, it says how to read them, how to write them. And this is day 1 Buddhist scripture. So aspiring Buddhist monks were like, I will go without food for days. I totally understand that learning requires effort on the learner's part. But educators need to do their part too. Break things down. I think I know what we can do. Oh, you guys are reading scripture like it's butter. Hey, let me see it. I don't... What is this? Why these right kanji radicals on the side? So they wrote the mini parts of the kanji they could already read on the right of the kanji they had trouble reading. These radicals reminded them of the sound they were supposed to make. Whole kanji were too bulky to fit between the lines, so they took a part of existing kanji, they took only half the space. Katakana literally means part kana. So that is how katakana was born. It's half-ass kanji minus their meaning. And then centuries later, when Western literature came into Japan, Saburo-kun, you're reading Dutch like it's butter. Yeah, but let me see a textbook. No! Why did you write katakana above the alphabet? Because learners need help! So katakana came to be used primarily for loan words. We can tell it's a loan word instantly when we see katakana in a sentence. Not all things have profound beginnings. Start small. Start partial. Ah, konnichiwa. Samurai spoke very differently from ordinary people, especially during the Edo period when there were no wars and samurai needed other ways to show that they were special people who were in power. By speaking differently, they were trying to prevent like the situation many Japanese dads are in. They're the boss at work, so they feel important, but at home, they basically don't feel needed. Also, Japanese dialects then were so different that samurai could not understand each other if they spoke normally. So they often used written Japanese, which all samurai were accustomed to, as a common samurai spoken language. That's why it sounds overly serious. So let's look at some basic samurai phrases so that you can speak like someone who needs to prove their worth. ありがとうございます。かたじけない。そうなんですよ。いかにもその通りでござる。嘘でしょ。まことでござるか。あ、ここですか。あ、大丈夫です。はい、どうぞ。はい。ここに 直座したいと申すか。苦しゅうない。座れ。あ、そろそろ時間ですね。皆さん、行きましょうか。おはよう、国言でござるな。おのおの方、参ろうか。カービーカフェ。Haiku is a product of 1,000 years of streamlining poetry, and its origin story is hilarious. Haiku is a Japanese poetic form with a 5-7-5 syllabic structure that explores themes of nature and resistance. The beauty is in what is not said but inferred. But why is it so short? The great ancestor of haiku was the choka, long poem, and these poems were long. The longest one had 149 lines. So by the time we got to the end of the poem, the audience doesn't remember shit about what you were talking about 10 minutes ago. So choka always came with a conclusive final verse that summarized everything in a 5-7-5-7-7 syllabic structure. So ancient Japanese people were like, Yasumi shishi, waga ookimi, taka terasu, hinomiko, kami nagara, kami sagisesu to futoshikasu. So in summary, ookimi wa kami ni shimaseba anaki mono, iroe ga moto ni korori tamai. Just say that! You put me to sleep on your third line, and you had the audacity to continue like another 15 lines. 22 lines. People were like, that is so hard. Oh, but it's cool. It's like you're a jazz musician creating music on the fly. You know what I create on the fly? What? Gibberish. Many of these poems I improvise, they are not great. You know, I wouldn't mind just having the first haikai no hoku, because that one's always well thought out. So people started creating just the 5-7-5 haikai no hoku for pleasure. Poets like Matsuo refined this art form, and everyone did it like everyone used to decorate their houses. And around the 19th century, let's make a haikai no hoku this weekend. What kind of haikai no hoku are you gonna do? My haikai no hoku. We need an abbreviation for this. Haikai no hoku. Haiku. And that's why we call these poems haiku now. We humans are lazy ass animals. Ocha, okashi, onigiri, odaiba, sencha. Why are there so many words that start with the sound O in Japanese? It was the doing of women in medieval Japan. O is a beautification prefix that makes the word sound more elegant. So before O came to be used, ocha was just cha. Okashi was just kashi, and oishii, which means tasty in Japanese, was just ishi. Do you feel that cha, kashi, and ishi sound a lot more blunt than ocha, okashi, oishii? So, as girls and women tend to be the creators of new trends and new words in Japan today, court ladies in medieval Japan stood up to fix Japan's inelegance. Dareka, cha to kashi o kure. We don't do that. What do you mean? You are a lady in waiting serving me. Where's my cha and kashi? There are plenty of re-employment opportunities for ladies in waiting of our caliber, and we won't serve nobles less refined than ourselves. Please watch your language. Wakajoju. Cha o kudasai. And okashi mo kudasai. Ishi. Oishii desu. Do you feel more civilized saying this? Then can I call it juice or juice? Then can I call beer or beer? If you want to annoy people. Who decides all this? We do. Women will forever be the gatekeepers of trendy Japanese language. And therefore, some select words, which are quite many, came to take on the O prefix. I'll leave a list in the comments. Ao desu ne. Midori desu ne. Gomennasai. Ao desu ne. Why do Japanese people sometimes call green ao, blue? It's not just traffic lights. Ao inga, ao mushi, ao take. There is a simple reason behind this. In ancient Japan, there were only 4 color words. Aka, ao, shiro, kuro. Green was included in ao. Pink, purple, aka. So many questions. I know. What about yellow? Aka. So it seems like they used aka for all warm colors and ao for all cold colors. Shiro for bright stuff and kuro for dark stuff. Midori as a color name only started to be used around the 12th century. solid proof from a linguistic perspective is that aka, ao, shiro, kuro, only these can be turned into an adjective. We say akai slime, aoi slime, shiroi slime, kuroi slime. These mean a red slime, a blue slime, a white slime, a black slime. For all of the colors, we need to tweak them a little bit, like midori yoro slime, murasaki yoro slime, chairoi slime. This means a new leaf colored slime. Midori was originally a word that was used to describe young leaves. This means a grow-well colored slime. Grow-well roots were used to make purple dyes in ancient Japan. This means a tea-colored slime. Before sencha was invented, tea was brown in Japan. So there weren't many color names until someone tried to brainwash ancient Japanese people with this nonsense. Look, Japan. There are 7 colors in a rainbow. Aka. Oh. You really need to stop complicating things. There are a million colors in a rainbow. Okay, so we tolerate the 7 colors in a rainbow. Fuck. You're telling me that is true? 猫が1匹、ネズミが2匹、象が1頭、ライオンが2頭。Why do we count animals in different ways in Japanese? Actually, we have a different counting unit for almost every matter on Earth. This is one of the most unpopular aspects of the language to come across as Japanese learners. And to swallow this pill, you need a sincere explanation. First of all, it helps to understand that Japanese is not an analytical language. Ancient Japanese people did not analyze anything. Whenever something unexplainable happened, they just blamed everything on mythical creatures. My sister's sick. Oni no shiwasa ja. My father hasn't come back for a week now. Oni no shiwasa ja. So biological classifications of animals. Nobody cared. They called snakes and frogs insects. Japanese was originally a language of perception and feeling. What they saw, what they heard, what they felt from it, they expressed through poetry. Until Chinese characters, kanji, came in, then classification came in. Now in ancient Japan, horses were counted ippiki nihiki. Why? Because they usually trotted ahead of people. So what did horses look like to ancient Japanese people? They looked like butt cracks, and that is why they used the kanji hiki to count horses. Fast forward to the 19th century, when Western papers on zoology started to come into Japan, they said that they counted livestock like cows by head. So Japanese people started using the kanji ko, head, to count cows. So if cows were counted by head, it felt right to count all big animals by head. So elephants, lions, and horses too came to be counted ito, ito. Meanwhile, smaller animals came to be counted ippiki, nihiki. Why? Because animals that are smaller than us run when we come near them. What do small animals usually look like? Butt cracks! When we come across animals that are bigger than us, they don't need to run from us. What we see is, oh, how I love some things. What do I see over there? Kuma ga itto, ito, santo, coming straight at us. Everybody, it was nice meeting you. We see their heads first. So medium-sized animals like dogs can be itto or ippi. Oh, that will be itto for today because I need to be Kuma-san food.
If you're a type of man who needs to act all tough in front of everyone, but is as soft as a Shiba Inu inside, you're not alone. You share qualities with a Japanese deity. Takeminakata is a mythical god who is enshrined in the south of Lake Suwa in Nagano Prefecture. He is a macho ancient god of war who is loved by locals, and many feudal lords worship him too because they want to win a battle. Now, Lake Suwa is known for a majestic phenomenon called the Omiwatari. In January or February, the frozen lake makes a tremendous sound at night, and huge wedges of ice form in the shape of a gigantic dragon's tail. There is a folk tale about this Omiwatari phenomenon and the god of war, Takeminakata's soft side. Takeminakata had a beautiful wife named Yasakatome, but they had a fight one day. Yasakatome packed her stuff and left her home shrine in the south of Lake Suwa and moved to the shrine in the north of the lake. So every night, lonely Takeminakata would row to the north of the lake to see his wife and come back the next morning before daybreak.
Oh, before the locals wake up. Good morning, sir. I was not doing yoga or baking cookies with my wife on the other side of the lake or anything. I know you're an independent, self-made lone wolf. Self-made lone wolf who can totally live without. Totally. Who can totally live without your wife's love or comfort, sir. Exactly. I'm a god of war. I have a brand to maintain.
But one cold morning, Hugh Grant movie background with my wife. Life can't get any better. Why is the lake frozen? The sun is rising. We'll go see me walking home from my wife's place. They're gonna think I'm a vulnerable softie. So Takamina sprinted across the frozen lake. That is why Yomiatari ice ridges form on cold nights. Unfortunately, the Yomiatari phenomenon hasn't occurred for a few years now due to global warming. My reason to try to be nicer to Earth is to see Takeminaga's soft side.
Shikoku is known for its countless legends and statues of raccoon dogs, or in Japanese, tanuki. Today I bring the best known story among the many tanuki-san legends, Awa Tanuki Gasu, the Awa Tanuki Wars. One day, a fabric dyer named Moemo saw a group of villagers surrounding an old pine tree. They were trying to roast out the tanukis that inhabited a hollow in the tree. That's not nice! Well, their stealing our crops is also not nice. They have friendship! And you're not! What, do they get to take our earnings because they're plushing? This is Japan! Take this, leave them alone! A few days later, Moemon's business is like skyrocketing. My customers come to my shop, they buy my fabrics, and their chronic diseases are healed. Tanuki-san, are you there? Did you like become my guardian angel or something? Because I kind of like how your miracles don't make logical sense. I am known as the Kincho Tanuki, 206 years old. You speak! I wish to reciprocate with even greater miracles. You just cured cancer. However, my current power is insufficient to repay your immense kindness. I just gave $5 to like 3 people. I must go study the art of transformation to earn an official Tanuki court rank. There's a Tanuki court rank! Under the great Tanuki chief, Rokuemon. So off Kincho Tanuki went, he split up the Tanuki court ranks. And when he got to the point just beneath the highest rank, Chief Rokuemon came to talk to him. Kincho, your talent in transformation is unrivaled. I would be proud if you married my daughter, Princess Shikamoku, and become a powerful son-in-law under my control. Rokuemon is a cruel tanuki who is at odds with the tanuki world I consider ideal. Chief Rokuemon, I'm afraid I must decline. I wish to go back to Moemon's place to use my powers to make him a gazillionaire. Goodbye. Wait! Nothing escapes the rule of the great Rokuemon tanuki. After him! Pursuers! So many of them! Not to worry, friend. This is nowhere near the great Kincho Tanuki should succumb. Taka of Fushinoki-dera Temple! I have lived under the eaves of a beautiful temple for a century. Oh, how I love the nature of Shuku. But not without you in it. Taka, go. Repay that man like a true Tanuki. So Kincho survived the attack. But before he returned to Moemon's shop, he needed to avenge his friend, Taka. In Japanese folklore, raccoon dogs, or tanuki, were thought to be mischievous furballs who played pranks on people with their transformation powers. For sport, but what makes them likable is that their transformations always come with flaws, and they often don't end up in the winning side. So here's one such folktale, Tanuki to Hikoichi. Once upon a time, there was a villager named Hikoichi who was the wittiest person the region knew. So a tanuki in the woods nearby was like, I have to throw a prank on that guy. He says my tanuki blood. I sometimes wonder, what do we gain from this? Trying to make people shriek. That! I tell myself it's our blood like 6 times a day. So Tanuki-san transformed himself into a human traveler to probe into Hikoichi's weaknesses. Look at that name. So late at night. So they really can't do anything about their tail and eye bags. You must be looking for shelter. Traveling man, who I can see is totally human. Come on in, have some hot sun. It's very cold outside. Thank you. During their conversation, Tanuki-san, or Traveler-san, asked, so does Hikoichi-san have a biggest fear or two? Like something that would terrify him to his bones? Daifuku! Oh, the sound of it gives me the creeps. How can something be so devastatingly Mochi mochi. I see you have a loose tongue, Hikoichi-san. The next morning, there was a pile of daifuku at the front door. It tasted good. Is it just me, or does he look happy? He is happy. Damn it! That night, angry Tanuki-san gathered all the rocks he could find in the village and dumped them all over Hikoichi's farmland. That'll get him upset. And the next morning... Thank God these were not horse-done! If they had been horse-done, nothing would have cheered me up. Not even Waibo Tomachi latte Betsy's eyes. I see you have a loose tongue, Hikoichi-san. So Tanuki-san dumped horse dung all over Hikoichi's farmland that night, and fertilized it so well that Hikoichi's farm yielded a sea of giant corn that year. Hikoichi-san, you tricked me twice! It's supposed to be the other way around! It's a thank you, Mark. All this looks really good. The end. Do not mess with a Tanuki-san. A Japanese folktale about Nezumi-san couple is endearing yet dramatic. We see foreshadows of Japanese anime and manga storylines. Nezumi no Umi. Once upon a time, two Nezumi-sans loved each other in a Nezumi-san village in a totally made-up world. Chorokichi was a young male mouse of the village, and Chuko was the daughter of the village head. Soon, Chuko came of age, and her father, like all other father figures in folklore and today, loved his daughter dearly but understood absolutely nothing about her feelings. Chuko, you must marry someone who can protect you. You must marry the strongest existence known to Nezumi-san kind. Like the Sun-san. Dad, Sun-san will incinerate me on our wedding day. Wait. Aren't Cloud-san stronger than the Sun-san? Can it at least be a mammal? No, Wind-san is stronger than Cloud-san. May I request that my husband takes physical form? No. Wool-sans are stronger than Wind-san. Which wool is it gonna be? Tell me! Wait. Nezumi-sans are the strongest because we can choose their walls. Did we need this entire conversation? So Father-san decided that the strongest Nezumi-san should marry his daughter, and therefore, the ultimate Nezumi-san championship match commenced. Entering the ring from my right is the village's mightiest whiskered warrior, Chuta. Entering the ring from my left is Chuko's secret boyfriend, Tanuki. Gambarimashita. Who will come out on top tonight? Ready? Fight! Chorokichi took countless punches to the face, but refused to surrender. Kichiku. So, that's enough. I now understand. The strongest existence in this cheeseless wasteland are two Nezumi-sans who love each other to the tips of their tails. Chorokichi-kun. 娘をよろしくお願いします Please take good care of my daughter. So Chuko and Chorokichi lived happily ever after. At this rate, we need an Nezumi-san remake of all love stories. Fellow introverts, hear this beautiful Japanese folktale about an introverted farmer who saved a whole village from a tsunami based on a real person's courageous and thoughtful action. I guarantee this will make your day. Inamura no Hi, the fire in the rice field. Once upon a time, in a region now called Wakayama Prefecture, there was a man named Hihei in a village by the sea. He had become 30, but his introverted personality had kept him single. Aya-chan. I hope I can exchange smiles with her today. From a distance. On the evening of a local festival one summer day, everyone dressed up in beautiful kimonos and headed off to the local shrine. Maybe if I wear this daring kimono today, Aya-chan will notice me, compliment me, conversation will flow, and we'll get married. After an earthquake comes tsunami. I can see the pillows. I need to tell everyone. The shrine's too far. Not gonna make it. What if I set these stacks of rice stalks on fire? Maybe they'll notice. Wait. This is.
Crash vs followed your channel.
You gotta tell it. Oh, they noticed. Run! It's a tsunami! I have never seen speak that loud. Run for your life! On the way up the mountain, Kie saw Aya-chan and her grandmother making little promise. Aya-chan! I just called Aya-chan. You need to hurry! Yes, but I can't leave my grandmother. But... The whole village was destroyed, but the entire village population was saved, thanks to Kihei's courageous action. The villagers later worked together to build a tall and bad sponge. Aya-chan was there to help the villagers heal, slash her husband. We may not be able to make combo, but we make things happen. So, Japanese folktale pop quiz. What will happen? Once upon a time, Osaru-san found a persimmon seed lying on the ground, and Kani-san found a rice ball lying on the ground. Osaru-san was a con artist, so he was like, oh, this will grow into dozens of fruits. So much more work than a 7-minute rice ball on the ground. So much my benevolent soul trying this for a 7-minute rice ball. And Kani-san was a people pleaser, so she was like, hey, okay. But with months of care, seed grew into a healthy tree with dozens of ripe persimmons. Osaru-san comes along and says, I can get that for you. I have the skill. I have the skill. And he climbs the tree and starts eating all the ripe ones. So Kani-san's like, give me one. My persimmon. And Osaru-san was like, take this, and threw a rock-solid green persimmon right at Kani-san and killed her. So here's the quiz. What happens to Osaru-san? That's right. Kani-san's child gathers his friends and beats the shit out of them. Revenge was a core value of medieval Japanese media. This is a children's story, so the characters are beautified a bit, but this was what adults actually did if someone caused harm to a fellow village. There are records and chronicles of villages rising against a neighboring village after a villager was caught cutting a tree in the mountains beyond his village's boundaries. So what's the moral of the story? That's right. Don't wait for karma to do its job. This story, Sarukani Gassen, is still one of those folk tales that every single Japanese town knows. I guess it's now spun into a let's not be a jerk type of moral story. While that is true, the other moral is there are consequences to deliver to a jerk. You like next day delivery of packages, we like next day delivery of karma. Have a nice day. Zenbombo is the Japanese term for Zen riddle showdowns where monks ask each other paradoxical questions to see who's more enlightened. And some comedian in pre-modern Japan made a comedic story parodying it, and it's called Konyaku Mondo. Long story short, a yam cake seller named Rokubei is disguised as the priest of an abandoned temple, and unluckily a traveling monk comes by and challenges him to a temple. Knowing nothing about Buddhism, Rokubei decides to keep his mouth shut no matter what. The monk throws him Zen riddles, but getting no response from Rokubei, he mistakenly assumes that he is being challenged back on a silent Zen. Now, because they're only using gestures, they communicate in very different wavelengths. So we first see the silent version, and then from the monk's perspective, and then from Rokubei's perspective. Monk's mind, this is what happened. He must be challenging me to silence and wonder. Then, how great is your heart? It is as vast as the sea. The universe is maintained with our 5 precepts. Where are the 3 Buddhas? They are right here. I am no match for him. But in Okube's mind, it was more like, I know who you are. You're the Yancake seller who sells Yancake this small. No, my Yancakes are huge. Then how much is it for 10 servings? $5. Make that 3. F. U. Zen moment. Do Japanese folktales ever end happily? The answer is almost never, but there are a few, and if you're in a tough stage of your life right now, I think this story will help you rise again. Asase Barashi. Once upon a time, a beautiful girl came to work in a village by a big river. She was the quiet type, but it seemed like all the young village men had feelings for her. One morning, several young men followed the girl to confirm the rumor that she went to the river at dawn each day. Sure enough, she walked down to the riverbank and waved to a man from the village on the opposite side. The two were hopelessly in love. But the river was so fast and so deep that nobody could build a bridge over it, and so the couple could only meet across the water. The young men couldn't keep their findings to themselves, and soon the whole village knew about the girl and her secret boyfriend. I'm gonna tell everyone. She was so embarrassed that she couldn't go out, and neither could she be with her man. She went by the river at night and thought she should just end it all. But while she was stuffing her kimono with rocks so she would sink, she thought to herself, exercise makes me feel better. What if I filled the bottom of the river with these rocks? Wouldn't that let me cross the river one day? The girl threw rocks into the river all night. When morning came, her boyfriend saw her and began throwing rocks in from the other side. They kept doing it for days, and soon the young village men too joined the cause. We gotta help them! For 10 years, everyone in the 2 villages kept throwing in rocks on their way to work and on their way back home. Finally, the shallows were shallow enough to walk on. The girl and the man hugged and cried in the middle of the river. The villagers of both villages cried along in joy, as if it were their own love that triumphed. That colossal rock! She threw it! That one too! If you have the energy to beat yourself to misery, use it to take yourself beyond your limits. Welcome to the beautiful yet endoxide world of Japanese culture. Most households have Buddhist priests chant sutras for their funerals and memorial services. Now, most families are not necessarily devoted Buddhists. It's just, that's the package. They probably did a Christian-style wedding when they got married. Japanese people, when it comes to important events, they think it's like a religious meeting. Anyway, after the priest finishes chanting, you give them a money offering in an envelope. The problem is, there's no price tags in their services. So you ask, how much will this be? And then you'll almost always get this reply. Which directly translates to feeling. It's supposed to mean, however much you feel you'd like to give us, will be appreciated. Because temples are religious institutions. They can't charge you for their services. That's why they're not taxed. So you Google this. Kimochi de soba. Soba means market price. And you get a whole table of the market price for your feeling for each kind of divine service. And we all pretend we didn't see that. That site doesn't even exist. We magically know the exact number of bills we're supposed to envelope because we're born with that knowledge. Welcome to the beautiful yet endoxide world of Japanese culture. Today, we look at the cultural mess in Japanese wedding receptions. Honestly, no one likes being invited to a wedding reception. That's not true. It only costs an arm and a leg. Shopping to dress up. A mandatory congratulatory gift of 30,000 yen or more. Transportation, all for friend's big day.
Why would anyone do this to a friend?
Why wouldn't you do this for a friend? Now, as you probably know, the adult world is all about etiquettes.
The adult world likes to complicate things for sport.
If you're asked to make a speech for the reception, it's your chance to immerse yourself in the beautiful galaxy of the Japanese language.
It's a pitfall into the mendokusai abyss of the Japanese language.
Japan holds an ancient belief system called kotodama, where we believe that words carry magical powers, and whatever we say will eventually come true.
We used to curse people with this power.
So there are just a few words we're not supposed to use at wedding receptions because we want to wish for a happy wedding.
Half the Japanese vocabulary becomes off limits because apparently marriages are so fragile that it will break because someone mentioned a negative sounding word or two.
Words that are associated with breaking up needs to be avoided, so make sure you edit your speech before the day.
You read it like a maniac because of a stupid fruit.
I'm honored to witness the end of another chapter in Sal's life. I'm honored to witness the conclusion of another chapter in Sal's life. We both struggled in school. School was a challenge for both of us.
By the time we left home,
By the time we set out, please cut the cake. Please insert the knife into the cake. I'm so happy he now has a precious someone.
what's wrong with precious?
Precious in Japanese is keiseira, and it includes the kanji for cut. You can't be serious. After almost a decade, we finally reunited.
What problem do you have with reuniting?
Reunite in Japanese is saikai and includes the kanji for repeat. We don't want people to repeat marriages.
Who is deciding these things?
Thank you. Now I'd like to hand the mic to the next speaker. There shouldn't be a next wedding. Let me take pleasure in expediting you to your
Next life! 美しく、そしてめんどくさい。
Why do Japanese people sit in this painful position? It's because it's designed to be painful. Seiza is the formal way to sit during tea ceremonies and funerals. It's said to have originated in tea rooms, and it was a way for samurai to show that they were not planning to kill the host. Not today. But after sitting on your heels for like 5 minutes, your legs grow numb because you deprive your calves of any blood flow. You won't be able to stand for a while, let alone attack the other person. And this was precisely the reason it became the formal way of sitting. It was in the mid-17th century when samurai started sitting in seiza position outside tea rooms, namely when they saw the shogun. Now during this time, it only a few decades since the shogun ended the age of bloodbath and obtained peace. Until then, every feudal lord engaged in conspiracies, treachery, assassinations, and surprise attacks. So there's no trust between the shogunate and regional feudal lord. They might still try to overthrow the shogun. So the shogunate needed to drain power from these feudal lords. One thing they did was order them to come help to build the infrastructure of Edo City, your name of Tokyo. Thank you for coming all the way from Kyushu, Prime Master of the Satsuma clan.
My pleasure, Representative Shogun.
What we'd like you to do is irrigate this river you will never use.
That looks like a 100-man job.
How many men can you feed? Oh, however many you can afford. Oh, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. So you'd like us to work on a construction project for infrastructure in your territory?
Yes, with money from our pockets.
I'm afraid so. Huh. Good thing I didn't have my whole military here today. So the shogunate knew that they were being the biggest in history. So during meetings with regional feudal lords, the shogunate asked the lords to sit in seiza position so that they wouldn't try to assassinate the shogun out of spite. Because he's really asking for it. Try standing after a 1-hour meeting. This is what will happen.
Why do lost items come back in one piece in Japan?
The reason is a mix of morality, kindness, social stability. Yes, but also partly of a funny, sad historical reason. During the samurai-ruled Edo period, which was when many of the modern Japanese values were shaped, face was everything for samurai. And obsessing over money was considered embarrassing, so they often spent money they didn't have because they didn't want to look stingy. For example, it was mandatory for samurai clans to relocate every year from their territory to Edo City, and the next year from Edo City to their territory, with hundreds and thousands of staff. Imagine how expensive arranging business trips and accommodation for that many people was. So many clans were constantly broke, but they didn't want to look stingy. They wanted to cut costs, but still make the processions look grand. So they hired part-timers to pose as their staff And in the countryside where there were no onlookers, they had everyone power walk to shorten the trip as much as possible and therefore cut costs. So when these kind of people are in the ruling class, peasants became pretentious too. Rakugo is a traditional Japanese comedic storytelling art, and although it's exaggerated of course, there's a story from the Edo period that revolves around Japanese people's not wanting to be seen as stingy. A customer called Kintaro picks up a wallet one day. It includes a slip of paper with the owner's address and 3 ryo, which is around $900 in today's money. Without thinking twice, Kintaro delivers the wallet to the owner, who is a carpenter called Kichigoro. But instead of thanking Kintaro, Kichigoro yells at him. Are you saying I'm a stingy man who would keep money that left him once? You better keep that money to yourself, young man. What kind of exceptional jerk are you? I would have come here in the first place when a lowly scum who stole people's money. I'm not taking it, you weird import chain. So they have a fist fight and go to court. The judge asks Kishijiro why he didn't take the money. I was trying to feel good about losing that money by telling myself I used up all the bad luck for this year. And then this guy comes along and says he wants to give it back to me. Then the judge asks Kintaro why he didn't take the money. If I were the type of man who could just pick up opportunities off of the floor, I would have been promoted years ago. So that's what's behind the reason Japanese people are honest. Please keep in mind that whoever delivered your personal police did so with mixed feelings about his cultural personality. Do you know why in pre-modern Japanese prints, women, like always, wear these ornaments that look awfully like earpicks? You know why? Because they're frickin' earpicks! In the 18th century, the ruling samurai class was not having it with peasants growing wealthier while samurai were growing poor. A large part of the reason was that samurai income was taxed in the form of rice. For the longest time, rice was almost the only thing people spent money on because every day was like life or death in the age of nationwide battle order. But when samurai finally stopped fighting each other and peace was attained, people started spending money on things other than rice. So with less demand for rice, the value of rice kept going down, meaning samurai income was growing smaller and smaller. So it was time for a samurai tantrum, and the samurai government issued a set of laws prohibiting the purchasing and use of luxuries. You guys only get by necessity, because samurai is supposed to be cooler! So peasants were not allowed to wear anything made of expensive material or with elaborate design or color. But the citizens of Edo were not going to yield to stupid meathead samurai rules, so they came up with all sorts of loopholes. Now, hairstyling was crucial for Japanese women to glam up, so they teamed up with craftsmen to come up with a solution. Separate by fire at night, silk sheets and kimono all white. Hey, you're not supposed to wear that many hairpins. These are ear picks. Necessity. Why would a person need 4 ear picks? Let me ask you, officer. Do you share a toothbrush with your siblings? No. We are a family of 4. Good afternoon. Samurai and their swordsmanship and bushido. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. But how'd you end up with that hair? This hairstyle, which is now called chonmage, actually had a practical reason. It all started around the 8th century when Japanese courts started adopting Chinese court culture, and the formal attire included a crown. This is a formal crown, and this is an informal hat. And court nobles thought that when your crown came off accidentally, it was as embarrassing as pulling your pants down in public. They even slept with their hats on, so they wanted to make sure it stayed put. So they eventually tied their hair like this, and this was eventually called mage, and they tied the crown to this mage. Several centuries later, samurai became leaders of Japanese society, and in their age, like every major problem led to a battle. So they would put on armors and helmets quite often. Let's say this is a helmet. And they soon noticed something very inconvenient. Before your eyes stands the mightiest warrior of the Azai family. Here to kick it. Here to kick your ass. Let's hold that please for a second. Woo, so hot. The Japanese summer is very humid, so their heads were constantly sweaty and itchy, but they couldn't take their helmets off because the #1 cause of death in battle was arrows that could fly into your head anytime. These samurai could aim like GPS-guided missiles on caffeine, while you can't even keep your pee inside the bowl. So at one point, someone in the samurai class said, "That's it! I'd rather live bald than die with hair!" So they picked off each hair with tweezers, all so that they could focus on the battle. This bold part was called sakayaki, and it means rising moon glow. A few more centuries later, peace was attained nationwide and there was no more need to wear helmets. But this hairstyle had become a symbol of samurai loyalty, that they were ready to fight anytime. So scholars, doctors, and priests didn't have a sakayaki. They grew hair here to show that they were not the types to engage in violence, and some samurai did it too to show that they were more forward-thinking people. Meanwhile, some peasants imitated the samurai hairstyle, kind of like how we may get the same hairstyle as a celebrity we like, and then that became the norm. The difference was that while samurai liked to tie their bage very tightly, like wearing a formal suit, peasants liked to tie their bage a little loosely, as if to wear baggy clothes for comfort. And they didn't cut their hair because, ouch, they shaved instead. Now, older people who were actually balding had very little bage, and their hairstyle as a whole was called chonbage because the word for little in Japanese is chokko, and it was called chon then. So the word chonbage might have been used as an insult. And then, in the late 19th century, Japan recommended that its people cut their hair short so that they wouldn't look so exotic to the Western world. The emperor cut his hair short to lead by example, and then Japanese people stopped tying their hair into a mage. Having a mage was considered backward when the whole country was trying to modernize. So perhaps that's why we call all types of mage chonmage now. Nowadays, only sumo wrestlers have a chonmage. So from today, you're gonna call your balding dad Rising Moon Glow. Shintoism is often argued as not being qualified as a religion. And that's the reasonable argument, because when you ask a Japanese person the question, are you Shinto? The answer you'll get, at best, is, maybe. Sometimes. So when are these sometimes? One is when you need to pass an exam. Some shrines, like the Fushiminari Shrine and Higashimaru Shrine in Kyoto, are known to enshrine gods that bless you with luck and academic success. They even promote themselves, because otherwise, not this many people will come. It's a cutthroat industry. Especially between January and March, right before the entrance exam weeks, you might see a lot of parents who drag their teenagers there. And these people, it's not like they come to these shrines regularly. It's probably the first or second time in Kyoto. Okay, after this Higashimaru Shrine, let's go pray at Fushiminari Shrine too. Because you're clearly not ready for this exam. Fushiminari is one of the biggest shrine groups with almost 20,000 branches all over Japan. They're the most iconic because if you go to a local shrine and you see statues of foxes, that's a Fushiminari franchise. They're associated with luck in harvest, business, or pretty much anything related to success. They've diversified their portfolio for centuries. So of course your local Inari Shrine offers academic success as one of the items of their list of blessings. But some locals will be like, this branch shrine is not powerful enough. It's only good for your math tests. So these mega shrine organizations explain that Shinto gods can reside in multiple locations simultaneously. They can divide themselves like how East does through budding. And like East, their powers remain the same even after they bud. So please don't worry, the god at your local shrine is the real shit. But that marketing doesn't work on Japanese people when it comes to important things like college entrance exams. Pack your things, we're going to Shinigami HQ, because I'm not gonna pay tuition for another year of cram school. And I always wanted to go to Kyoto, so that's how we are Shinto at selective timings, like New Year's. Dating was hard mode in ancient Japan. Around 1,000 years ago, during what we call the Heian period, people of the nobility carried out completely different courting customs centering around poetry. If I rate the public safety level of Japan now at like 80, the public safety level of the Heian period was like minus 5,000. So nobles kept their precious daughters within their manors, and it was very rare that they went outside. At some point, noble women felt that showing their faces in public at all was as embarrassing as how Japanese women now might feel about attending a wedding reception without makeup. So noblemen rarely had a chance to meet women face to face. It was like the dating arena. Now, minus workplaces, minus online dating platforms. Hard mode! Once they found out about a supposedly beautiful princess of another noble family, their first move was to write a letter. And it was not just a letter. It needed to include a poetic verse that more or less followed a 5-7-5-7-7 syllabic structure. It needed to mention a witty observation about nature, a season of flower needed to be attached, bonus points if the paper looked and smelled good. But why would you need to care about all these formalities? Here's why. It's because the letter goes through parental screening. Madam, a letter has arrived from a gentleman. Well, what do we have here? Summon my ladies in waiting. It's time for microscopic scrutiny. A reference to falling cherry blossom. lot of agarwood. This boy's rich. Madam, the council approves of this gentleman. All right, girls, we'll ignore this first letter in accordance to our long tradition of playing hard to get. Meanwhile, initiate Operation Background Check. So the guy had to send 3, 4, 5 letters of consistently high quality to pass the initial parental screening. An exceptional pointer skills could compensate for his disadvantage in wealth or noble rank. So these nobles raised the bar, but these poetic courting practices were also shared with peasants. Villagers had mixer parties before sowing seeds in spring, and only men who could improvise witty poems that teased women the right way got laid. Imagine how hard men studied poetry. Dating carries different challenges, different times. To be honest, have you guys ever wondered, what is a shogun exactly? Was he a king? And why is there an emperor? During much of Japanese history, the shogun was practically the ruler of Japan, but not technically the ruler of Japan. The emperor was technically the ruler of Japan, but not in a practical sense. The history of politics in pre-modern Japan is very complicated, but to put it simply, if Japan were a company, the emperor was like the owner of the company, and the shogun was like the CEO who did the actual running of the company. The emperor and the imperial court used to own and manage Japan, but they didn't do a particularly good job of it. Peasants were starving and getting killed everywhere because of the imperial court's general ignorance towards anything outside of Kyoto, the capital then. They didn't even set up police organizations outside Kyoto, so peasants had to arm themselves to protect themselves, their crop, their land, and their loved ones. That's why samurai came about in rural areas, because the court didn't give a shit about every picture about their lives. So samurai were these military professionals positioned under the emperor and the imperial court. So whenever the court had a dispute within itself and they had to fight each other, who did the actual fighting? It was samurai. So after each civil war was settled, the court and samurai were like, well done, samurai general. Ready to go choking the last breath out of the faction I don't like. Now I can hog all the power there is. You can go home. In this battle, many of us lost several siblings. Some of us lost their offspring. Hypothetically, let's say we didn't get compensated in any way. I wonder whose last breath we might be choking out next. So finally, in the 12th century, it was like the owner of Japan was coerced to give up his role as the CEO of Japan to the head of all samurai. He was given the title Sei Taishogun, which was traditionally a title for the military general, but in reality, he practically became the ruler of all of Japan. So the title Sei Taishogun, shogun for short, came to be understood as the title for the CEO of Japan. The emperor and the imperial court system were kept alive as the owner of Japan, even though they didn't have much military, financial, or political power. That way, it was more convenient for the shoguns at the time because, no, it's not like I'm forcing everyone to obey me. I was appointed by the emperor. The rightful owner of the country is saying, I should call the shots. Not all my descendants are going to be as charismatic as I, the founder of the shoguns. But they are rightfully shogun because they were appointed by the emperor. Yes, exactly, Takashi-kun, you get an A. There were 3 shoguns in the history of Japan, so I'm skipping a lot of details, but that is basically what the shogun was in pre-modern Japan, Takashi-kun, you get an A. There's so many beautiful stone gardens in Kyoto, and samurai love them too. You know why? Due to budgetary reasons, nobles and samurai lords up to around the 15th century liked having huge green gardens. Scaled down mountains and lakes, inspired by breathtaking Mother Nature, made viewable from the comfort of your home. They loved it. Every rich family had it. But in 1467, war broke out among a bunch of power-hungry nobles and samurai. The Oni War took place in Kyoto and it lasted 10 years. So Kyoto was like flattened. Everything went on fire, including the homes and gardens of nobles and samurai who lived in Kyoto. Now during this time, Zen Buddhism was becoming popular in the samurai world because its stoic approach to enlightenment resonated with the stoic way of life of the samurai. And luckily for samurai, Zen provided not only spiritual help, but also practical solutions to their biggest problems. I spent like 3 years' worth of my income on a new garden last year. And I had maybe 1 cup of tea in this regular space. The Yamana samurai family came in and trampled all over everything. They glazed my garden with blood, body parts, and intestines. I have a little hut on that little artificial island over there. But apparently, fire arrows are a thing these days. One thing I don't like about battles is that they cost a shitload of money.
I'm a samurai. I live for and off of battles. I'm supposed to entertain these intrusive thoughts, but my bills tempt me.
And that's why Zen has really helped me. I can focus on them now, not when the bills are due. This counseling session is great. Let's talk about something more mentally stimulating, shall we? So Zen Master-san, why is it that you guys make your gardens out of stones and pebbles and make them look like rivers and waterfalls? Do you hear the sound of the river?
There is no river nearby. But now that you mention it, I do recall the sound of a river in my mind.
Yes, we can choose to feel things. We can feel a garden without the garden. But we cannot feel the garden without our choosing to feel it. So which shall we keep? A real garden or our choice to engage with the world around us? Okay, but don't you want to see the sexy shadows cast from trees? The smell of real grass? Nothing beats the experience of walking along the banks of audio. Maintenance is easier. I like. How much does it cost to build a stone garden, like compared to my old green garden? It's about this much. A tenth! Where are my servants? Go get it, pretty stones! So stone gardens claim space in the repertoire of Japanese garden styles. What did people in history do in the face of silly laws issued by dictators? Let me share an example from Japan. The people of Edo City, or in other words, the people of Tokyo in pre-modern Japan, remained unfazed because the shogunate made all sorts of silly laws that were implemented and canceled, so they were used to it. They always came up with workarounds, and through workarounds, they thrived than ever before. The Edo period was a peaceful, warless time, so businesses could actually grow, so commoners were getting wealthier and wealthier. But samurai, as the ruling class, despised labor, so they didn't produce anything. They just received the same annual salary in the form of rice. As commoners got richer, they used their money on things other than rice, luxuries. So the value of rice was growing relatively weaker and weaker, which means the value of samurai income was growing smaller and smaller. Some commoners were living super comfortably, while many samurai were struggling financially, and they had to engage in labor secretly, making umbrellas and lanterns behind closed doors because it was embarrassing to be seen working. So they were like, wait, aren't we supposed to be the ruling class? So it's time for a samurai tantrum! One day, the shogunate issued a law prohibiting commoners from purchasing or wearing kimonos with elaborate designs or colors. Starting today, you commoners can only wear brown, gray, and navy because those are sad color. No purple, no red because those are cool colors and we can't afford no bigger, complex patterns because that makes you guys look too cool. And we look sorry. There, food's on top. Oh, come on. Bow down, bow. Okay. In response to the silly law, textile makers created 48 shades of navy, 48 shades of brown, 100 shades of gray. Fabrics that look patternless from a distance, but are intricately patterned up close. Kimonos that look dull on the outside, but hide extravagant linings on the inside. These workarounds within limitations brought about a culture that celebrates subtle self-expression. From limitations came innovation. And what happened to the shogunate? They made themselves beloved. Therefore, they're gone. Meanwhile, the Japanese people's love of yours still remains today. Humans are built to navigate messes. Jizo statues and kitsune statues all come with red ribs. Why? Clothing these statues is the kind of tradition that had become irreversible over time by the time everyone noticed. Like the graduation camps, they need to be square. It just feels weird and ugly. That's the primary reason we still do it. But having said that, we can make speculations about the reason if we think about the symbolic meaning of red ribs. Clothing statues most likely started with these Buddhist Jizo statues. These are dubbed baby Buddha, and most of them were built for a bittersweet reason. In ancient to pre-modern Japan, child mortality was extremely high. People did not expect half their children to survive to be 7. That's why we celebrate Shichigo-san, to thank the gods for letting our children reach the milestone ages of 3 years old, 5 years old, and 7 years old. Shichigo-san means 753. But again, many children didn't make it, and it was believed that children who passed away before their parents were given forced labor in the afterworld. So people built Jizo statues because it was believed that these baby Buddhas saved children from the afterworld labor and lead them to nirvana. Parents pray for their children's well-being in the afterworld and place their favorite toy or food in front of the statue. And, they probably had a bib without a use anymore, so they tied it around the Jizo statue. And many bibs were colored red because red was believed to have powers to repel evil spirits. That's why shrine gates are red. So that shouldn't be too far from how the practice began with Jizo statues. Why do Keiseira statues and Shinto shrines get the same thing? Again, nobody knows exactly why, but many of these bibs are offerings from regular shrine goers. And throughout history, in Japanese people's minds, Buddhism, Shintoism, all higher beings above us, in our eyes, they're all great. Oh, what the? Respect. Respect. Okay, so if Ojijawa-san gets a red bib, Kitsune-san should get the same thing too. Wait, what about those mythical lion statues? Should they get a red bib too? Why didn't our ancestors think about that? Let's go. Where is it? It's there. Don't worry, Lion-san. We got you covered. This is a design decision. Clothing this macho animal with a bib, it feels like clothing Dwayne Johnson with a bib, which is cute, but in a funny, cute way. Like when we put masks on them during COVID. Yeah, they're fine. They got a mane. But wait, what about Usagi-san? We better hurry. Let's go. Don't worry, Usagi-san. We got you covered. This is overkill. They're already cute enough. If we cutify them any further, they will become Sanrio characters. And that is my guess as to why only Jizo statues and Kitsune-san statues got the bib. The first railway in Japan began running in the 1870s, and back then, a consensus on train matters had yet to be established. And due to a lack of a common understanding on what to do, what not to do, there were some crazy passenger stories from this time. Seen trains with the flying cars of today. Everyone wanted to try riding it, even though tickets still cost an arm and a leg. It said that these trains were as jam-packed as rush hour trains now, and most of these passengers were super excited first-time riders. Now, as you may know, we take off our shoes when we come home, or enter someone else's house, or enter a very traditional Japanese restaurant. To be honest, there are times when we cannot tell if this is a no-shoes type of place or a with-shoes type of place, you know, when we come to a restaurant we have never been to, so we ask the staff. So this is what happened to the first Japanese people to ride the train. Ah, so this is technology. It's almost our turn. Wait, that guy got on with his shoes on. And this is obviously an enclosed vehicle. I mean, no one rides a litter with their shoes on. It'd be rude to bring in dirt from outside. I'm not proud about it, but I just stepped on fresh dock just an hour ago. But it's a Western-style vehicle. I hear Westerners go inside with their shoes on. I can't be. I'm taking my shoes off. Kids, take off your shoes. Let's show some courtesy to Western technology. So after the train left, there were a bunch of shoes left on the platform. Some of our close ancestors chose politeness over logic, and that's the Japanese spirit. Why were so many ancient Japanese paintings drawn on sliding doors and folding screens? What did they have against drawing on plain paper or walls like in Europe? The reason is in ancient Japanese people's living spaces. There were no walls. 100,000 years ago, while peasants lived in dugouts made of dirt and hay, court nobles in Kyoto lived in massive manors built in a style called the Shinden-zukuri. So this is my new home. Finally complete. I have a question, Architect-san. Yes, my lord. Where are my walls? Without the walls, air from outside can permeate throughout your manor. The structure is built on stilts to promote air circulation to combat humidity. You're right. This setup makes the dreadful hot summers of Kyoto bearable, and winters unbearably cold. No matter where I am inside, the icy Siberian wind finds me. No worries, we've made these sliding doors so that you can make walls anytime you like. And please use these folding screens to divide your room even further. That's genius. How convenient. Architect-san, now I'm lonely. This is like in the 8th, 12th century, but I feel like I'm trapped in office space with a tight budget. Can you, like, paint beautiful stuff on the doors and the screens? What would you like painted? Can you paint nature? Because I always want to be connected with it. But I'm rich, so nature should come to me. I'm glad the samurai overthrow your nobles from power in the 13th century. And that is why ancient Japanese paintings are often drawn on sliding doors and folding screens. So next time you see them at Japanese art exhibits, tell your mental Asian Japanese noble to go play outside for once. How are Japanese kids disciplined? You know how we grew up learning the consequences of being dishonest or selfish through stories like Pinocchio or The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Japan, of course, does that too, but some Japanese prefectures take a more direct approach. Akita Prefecture is best known for its annual ritual at the end of the year. A deity called Namahage pays a visit to every home, just like Santa. The only difference is that while Santa brings presents, what Namahage brings is fear and interrogation session. So imagine you're age 5 and this guy storms into your house and starts bellowing like this. What are you gonna do? You're gonna cry. And etch that face on your brain forever as that day you nearly got eaten. They're the envoys of the local gods who come to check if the locals haven't been slacking off in life. So they approach every home, roaring to, build up the fright. When children hear them from afar coming close, they really think it's the end of their life. And while they're in tears, the family needs to be ready to be interrogated over food and sake, so it goes like this. Oh, welcome. Please have some sake. Oh, thank you so much. But this is my 13th cup tonight, so I'm just gonna have a little. But haven't been a drunkard all year! Only on Fridays. Do you get up early every morning? Toy Poodle! Yes, I wake up at 7 every day. How old is she? She's 7 months old. I like her howdy! 아니 진짜 이거 next dish your homework. Did you eat your carrots and your broccoli? Was it tasty? Christmas is nice. It's like, if I'm a good boy this year, Santa's gonna reward me with a present. But in Japan, it's not like that. Behaving is standard operation, not for extra credit. Do you remember that rowdy kid in school? Let's have Namahage-san come and eat it. How do Japanese parents tell their children to listen? Before they started bestowing iPads, and even before treats, Japanese parents have traditionally relied on yokai to make their kids listen. Yokai are spiritual creatures in folklore that have very specific behaviors. They're like 1,000 of them. And some of these yokai make perfect threats for children if they don't do what the parents want to do right now. My favorite such yokai is a variant of Yuki-onna, or Snow Maiden. This story is from Iwate Prefecture, up north where there is heavy snow. So the story is told like this. I'm gonna slid down the snow gazillion times today. Taichi, remember to come back before sundown. Gazillion times. Taichi, if you don't come back before sundown, Yuki-onna will come and get you. Who's this Yuki-onna? You don't want to know. I want to know. It's a beautiful lady dressed in all white, and she appears with a cow in tow. One sight of her, and it's too late. What happens at the sight of her? Lose control of your body. And won't be able to run. She will wave at you. Like this. And your legs will carry you toward her. Even if you don't want them to. And she will start slowly milking her cow. She will scoop the milk to her palms and gesture for you to drink it. And what happens if I drink the milk? Nobody knows. Because they didn't come back. I'll be back by noon. Why does she make you drink milk? The random specificity brilliantly amplifies the fright. Psychological counselors say it's not good to use ghosts and yokai as threats on children. Creating an object of fear in children's imagination can instill unnecessary trauma. Yeah, believe that, my child. If you babysit this guy for a month and not cry, then I'll listen to you. But we are in the 21st century. Maybe it's time to revisit this old custom. Taichi, I need to tell you something. I have been lying. Yuki-onna won't come, even if you don't come home before sundown. Then what happens if I don't come home before sundown? You'll get lost in a whiteout, freeze, and that'll be it with your life, like what happened to Sato-san 2 years ago. Same thing! Yokai are euphemism for all the real dangers out there, Yoza. Do you like sencha, Japanese green tea? You will like it even more after hearing the story. An early form of sencha was invented during the Samurai Road Edo period, and it reached Edo City, the old name of Tokyo, around the mid-1700s. But back then, tea was like the hot chocolate of early modern Europe. Only the wealthiest people, like high-ranking samurai and sick-rich merchants, could afford it. They showed off their wealth by serving tea to their guests. Commoners could never. At cafes, clean water cost like 250 yen in today's money, which is like $1.50. Cheap sake cost the same, so everyone drank sake when they were thirsty. And sencha cost like 4,000 yen, like $25 a cup. Now to enjoy sencha fully, you'll want a tea time treat to go with it, like yokan. Yokan is a thick, sweetened red bean jelly. It doesn't sound appetizing when you describe it in English, but I promise it goes extremely well with green tea. Toraya is the most famous and oldest traditional confectionery brand known for yokan. Now, like tea, sugar was extremely expensive during the Edo period, and so was yokan. It was like one of those French truffles that cost $250 a piece. So even high-ranking samurai and sick-rich merchants served tea and yokan together reluctantly. My lord, are we gonna serve this yokan to our guests? Yes, but slice it as thin as paper. More to the right. More to the right. So if you don't want to serve yokan, we can go with a cheaper treat. Do you know? In the samurai world, pretentiousness is everything. So they served thin slices of yokan, hoping the guests would not eat it. And guests knew what yokan were worth, so they pretended to be full and left them untouched. Japanese manners could get really painful. The host served yokan, they didn't eat it, so they took it back. The host served the same slices to another guest, they didn't eat it, so they took it back. Until the sugar in the yokan crystallized and turned it all white. You can't serve that to a guest anymore because it looks bad, so it finally became the host's tea time snack. Nowadays, sencha is served at restaurants for free. Yokan costs the same as sugar. So when you enjoy your tea time with sencha yokan, you are living in a people's dreams. Happy tea time! Have you ever dreamed of being the ruler of your country? No? Good, because listen to this curious story of Japanese shoguns. There were 15 shoguns during the Samurai Road Edo period, and they were supposed to be dictators and everything, but they exercised no control over their meals. First of all, the shogun's food had to be tested for poison, so food testers ate whatever was cooked, waited for an hour or so, and made sure no one died, no one died, no one died. Okay, and then they brought the food to the shogun. The Edo castle was huge, so from the kitchen to the shogun's room, journey. So by the time the food arrived, 2 hours had passed. So the shogun never got to eat hot meals in their lives. Look at those commoners chugging food with what's that coming out? Steam. Now, pre-modern Japanese.
Hello. So, I am going to end here. We got a lot of work done, so that's about 2.5 hours of work. So happy about how it's turning out, and I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for being here. And the next time I stream, I don't know if it'll be this week or not, honestly. If I can, it will probably be Thursday, because I have to get some work done. So, we'll see if I can get that done on Thursday. What else? I think that's it. I think Thursday would be a good day, because I'm off on Thursday, and I should be able to do it. It's probably going to be a co-working stream, though. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, I'll type it. Just in case you can't hear me, because I don't know if you can or not. But, yeah. Let's find somebody to raid. No, Lazriel is a cutie. Let's see. Let me find somebody to raid. La, 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 la. I think we are going to raid Cat. Let's see. I think you'll enjoy Cat. She's sweet. So let me do this here. This is who we're rating. Okay. And we have a Discord if you want to chill there. We have a throne. No pressure. And here is the raid message. Let me copy the raid message because I always forget. And I will see you all on Thursday. Have a good day, y'all. I love you. But remember, Jesus loves you so much more. Okay. Bye.